Cutscene! That means ah! Ooh, nice. Oh my god, the crit capture failed? Where's the alien at? Oh fuck!
Are you Gothix? Like Gothix? Hello?
No, I'm fake Gothix.
You're actually her. What a fucking badass.
Character customization. Okay, first of all, I clicked new and it made me Caucasian. Like the Highest Hope Foundation of St. Jude Children's Hospital. It's a very nice organization, okay?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OPSEAT video podcast. I'm your host, Drew George, social media director and Twitch partner for OPSEAT.
And I'm Glitch Streams, lead editor for OPSEAT.
And today we are joined by Twitch partner Gothix. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello everyone. I'm a little bit shocked because your voice changed so drastically, and I'm like, who is this guy now?
Well, I'm Drew, and we created this podcast to introduce you to successful gamers who have used various strategies to build personal brands and make a profit with them. Please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you enjoy your live streams or your podcast. Now, Gothix, you've actually been on the podcast before with Seth, and we're extremely excited to have you back. Now, for those that may not know, what would most people recognize you for?
Probably, you probably saw me at some time on your Twitter timeline with a crazy filter, maybe singing, dancing, screaming, all of the above. Just something crazy on Twitter.
Yeah, your social media presence is absolutely incredible, and it's really nice. And it's really awesome to be able to kind of talk about the topic that we're going for, because you have this, enigmatic personality that you bring to all of your different platforms, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or even TikTok lately. Now, basically, we're trying to tackle the topic of how to develop your personality as a content creator. And Gothix does an amazing job of doing that. Now, what would you say, if you could describe yourself and your personality in a little bit, how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, I'm naturally a very introverted person, a little bit socially awkward. So this was one hurdle that I had to, get over when I first started streaming, where I had to kind of project this louder personality online. Because nobody's gonna really sit there if I'm just like all quiet, just playing my game and not saying anything. So, I'd like to say I have like two sides to my personality, and one side that I use is mostly is the performer side, where I put on this kind of um, different personality just for the sake of like entertainment. So I guess you can say like in some aspects, streamers would consider themselves entertainers in the same sense. Um, so in my head, as far as my personality, I think a lot of it comes from just like who I would like to be 24/7 out in public. Very loud, very extra,
Yeah.
very goofy. I'm just too afraid to do it. So, but I'm comfortable enough to do it when I'm streaming, at least.
Yeah, definitely. That was, somebody who's also been creating content for a while was a huge hurdle for myself, but it's helped kind of bring out, like you said, who you want to be in, a lot of different events, especially if we go to conventions or anything to meet with all our other streamer friends, et cetera, et cetera. It's really nice to be able to, kind of use Twitch or use live streaming or content creation to kind of develop your personality and figure out who you want to be. We've had you basically on the podcast about 8 months ago, and you've had a lot of time during the year to kind of dive a little bit deeper into who you are as a content creator. So how has streaming in your career developed since last time we talked about 8 months ago?
Yeah, definitely I think I'm going through this transition as far as my content goes. So I'm not where I used to be, and a big portion of that was because during this whole year that I've been doing this full time, I made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of things that I didn't anticipate when I decided to take that plunge and do this, full time. And so the one thing that I'm learning is that I shouldn't be content in having the same type of content because it's always
Yeah.
ever evolving. There's always going to be like healthy competition on this platform. And so like I always have to be like ahead of the game thinking about what is the next best thing that's going to bring people in because after a while like you can only sit there and watch me say the same joke or do the same dance like 10 times before it gets really stale. So that's the one thing that I learned. And so going into 2020, a lot of my stuff's going to be changing, but I'm really excited.
And
Yeah.
yeah, go for it, Coach.
So yeah, it is really interesting, and how you said to where it was just kind of like in reality you would say that like you're kind of more reserved in person, and then it sort of developed into this thing. And I know that that's actually a really big kind of untalked spoken about thing with a lot of creators, is that like at the end of the day we're still people, but we're also usually the more reserved people, and became an outlet. And then to see like that, and then it evolves to the point where you're just like, I've found my personality, now I want to step it up, change it up a little bit, because it's like, because it just becomes this developing sort of bubble to where you find who you are, and then after that you're like, okay, how can I make this better, another step up. And so in that same vein, what are some tools that you would say makes it kind of easier to express yourself and your personality on your streams or just online in general?
So for me personally, I love to dress up. I love costumes. I love accessories. I love punk rock aesthetic. I love an 80s rock aesthetic. Like all of these things, like to me just makes me feel like a powerful human. And on Twitch, it's like I can kind of like act out this weird persona that I created in my head. Um, and so I think a big part of it is like if I don't have a costume on, I notice that sometimes I act a little bit differently. It's very weird. But yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, a little bit harder to like, get into character and stay in character, things like that. I mean, like it's the same thing. Like for those that maybe listen to the podcast that don't necessarily dress up or go for like an 80s or like steampunk aesthetic or something. Kind of like think about how comfortable you are streaming from your own setup, and then you go to your friend's house and you have to stream over there. Maybe you can think about that in relation to like being able to stay in character, because different things make different things comfortable for more people. Like I know when I had to stream at like a couple conventions, I always felt really uncomfortable and out of character and not able to be my full self when I wasn't in my own space, Now, I know that a lot of content creators aren't just creating content on Twitch anymore. They're also creating content on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, even TikTok. And like I said before, Gothix is really, really, really good at kind of like unifying the character between these platforms. How important would you say it is that you do this?
I would say social media in itself is probably almost a little bit more important than you actually streaming. Because like you can stream for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, but if you don't post anywhere to let people know where to find you, how are they going to find you? And then like also a big part of my growth that happened this past year is people were finding me when I was offline. And the way that you make that happen is by getting your content out there on various platforms. And so TikTok is a new one that just popped up. I'm still brainstorming on what to do on that platform. But that's definitely something that I'm gonna start taking over on 2022 because a lot of streamers are growing really fast on there.
It's crazy. Like TikTok popped up and it was sworn off for like by so many people because of like everything with Musical.ly and everything like that beforehand. But the audience that's on there is like it's a whole different demographic than you would have typically on your Twitter, where you have your like confined little social space. And like even your latest TikTok video about stealing views with the paper on the TV was absolutely fantastic. We might add a link to it in the blog post or something, but if you haven't been able to check it out, please just go to at Gothix TV on Twitter, because it's absolutely fantastic, or find her on TikTok.
I think
brilliant.
it's beautiful that TikTok has basically evolved into a new Vine.
Yeah.
Like you get the ones that take it seriously and still treat it like still treat it like Musical.ly, and then you get the ones that it's just like, this is just shitpost central. And so on the same topic of like platforms and like how even when you're offline you still need to manage and like even when you're off, you're on, because you need to be able to manage those off hours. So outside of streaming, what platform do you really feel helps you connect best with your audience?
Definitely Twitter, and I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter. If you've never encountered streamer Twitter, it's very scary. But I would be lying if I said that Twitter wasn't like one of the key platforms that I use to kind of promote my stuff when I'm not actually streaming. The second one I think would be Instagram. But I feel like Twitter is a little bit better because you can, share all kinds of media as well as like text. Um, and it's easier to be shared between people, whereas like Instagram you can't really like retweet anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, and I mean like with all of this, and I mean like earlier you were saying that you're a little bit more reserved and kind of like introverted in person. That's how a lot of creators are most of the time. But do you feel like it's the ability and like this the ability to express yourself that you've been able to have, whether in costume or without, while you're on social media or creating content? Do you feel like it's this personality that you've been able to maintain that helps your audience connect with you the best?
It's interesting because I've heard from my audience for that they kind of like me on both ends of the spectrum. So they like this weird, crazy alter ego that I created, and then they also like the really chill, laid back person who's been recently talking a lot about mental health and things like that because they can relate to it on more of a personal level. So I'm still trying to find that balance of how to incorporate both without scaring the other, supporters away.
Yeah.
And so, and this was just as of like a few months ago, I started opening up and being more myself and just, letting people know what's going on in my head and things like that. So it was very shocking to hear that they enjoy that side of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, this audience that you're able to have and everything, do you feel like this decision came more from how you were able to see things, or more of like the feedback from the audience of kind of trying to find that middle ground between these spectrums?
As far as like what, like me being
more open and talking like about mental health and like the things and the kind of like the struggles that come with streaming that not everybody sees. Do you feel like that was something that maybe you felt your audience wanted to see, or was it something that your audience was asking for?
So it happened by accident. So this past summer, I had a really bad time with streamer Twitter, and I ended up taking, a month-long break, and it really honestly did a number to my mental health. And I ended up, I literally remember coming to my desk one day and deleting all of my scenes, deleting all of my effects, basically saying like, no more fun, put all the fun away, I don't want it. And I stopped dressing up, I stopped dancing on stream, I was very, like, monotone on stream, like, my streams just weren't the same anymore, it was like a completely
Yeah.
different person, and that was just because I was so hurt and I didn't know how to move forward. So, during that time, the people that were in my community saw this change, but a lot of them appreciated it because I was so honest and open about what was going on with me. And that also opened up other conversations for people in my community to maybe go to the doctor and get their mental health
Yeah.
looked at. And you know what I mean?
And
Oh.
it's really nice to be able to relate to. I mean, if some of the people that might be listening to the podcast, maybe they don't go on Twitch every day, but sometimes we find ourselves in communities that we spend countless hours in, and it's really nice to be able to relate to who you're hanging out with, basically. So it's nice that your community is able to have that. It's really, really wonderful.
I feel like those are the streams that really stand out, is just like the ones that like it is very obvious that a community is built, because like we have those ones that are just like they're so big that it's like they don't really connect, but they're fun to watch. And so those streamers that are able to nail down and sort of truly connect to their community and show that like this is a safe place where when you're here, your family, like Olive Garden type deal.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to see that. And on in that same vein, just streaming as a profession can be very hard to balance. And so what's kind of your opinion on where streaming's at in all aspects, not just on stream, but streaming as a profession? What is your opinion?
So streaming as a profession, so I still enjoy what I'm doing, but I said before I even got into this business that I'm not going to stop at streaming. This is just like a platform for me to go do other stuff at some point, but I'm not going to stop there. And I think that's also something that a lot of aspiring streamers don't think about is how to monetize yourself in more ways than just like relying on subs and bits when you're in your channel.
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of where I am right now. The other thing is I think the big problem that I've had this past year is not understanding how to be my own boss in general, not just streaming, but like in general, when you decide to like pay your own bills, be your own boss, nobody teaches you how to do this. So you kind of just
Not
like
at
go day to
all.
day and just figure out what works and and that's hard. That's very overwhelming. Um and I think with streaming, there needs to be a lot more legitimate education for new streamers as far as like how to go about things because there's a lot of like wrong information where I feel would lead to a lot of burnout, would lead to like very toxic behavior between streamers. So I still love the industry. I just think that it's getting a little crazy because there's a lot of new streamers popping up and there's a lot of craziness happening. Yeah.
That's completely fair. I mean, it is one of the fastest growing industries, that along with esports, to where it's just like it didn't exist 5 years ago, and suddenly it's one of the biggest things, and everybody from like 15 to 23 is trying to do it pretty much.
Yeah.
And so just sort of on that topic of kind of figuring out, because like there's a ton of tutorials on how to start streaming at the base level of just straight up, here's how to turn on a stream, here's how to make it look pretty. What would you say to an aspiring streamer that has nothing to do with the technical side, nothing to do um with managing an actual like OBS or making a Discord work? What would you tell an aspiring streamer personally? Like, what do they need to know when it comes to maybe taking it even just a level further of full time?
So am I allowed to swear? No.
Yes.
Go for
Okay,
it.
so I deliver information in a bit of a way that would come off as being an asshole. So I would probably say to this streamer, and I'd be very blunt, that you're probably not gonna make it. It's very unlikely that you don't, and I'd rather people think that they're not gonna make it industry than they are because when they have so much like when they have this idea that they're going to turn on the stream, be the next ninja within a few months, get partner within a few months, it's
Yeah.
like then they start developing this sort of like entitlement in their brain where it's just like, well, they're growing faster than me. What the hell? Like, why am I'm amazing, you know? So, like, when I tell to people is like, listen, you may not be cut out for this, and it's totally okay to try it. And if you decide that it's not for you, that's totally fine. And I know a lot of streamers that will beat themselves up over the fact that they've been streaming for X amount of months and they just give up. It's like, well, that's just life. I've done lots of things in my life that I'm not doing now. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this industry is a very like personality driven industry. Like you're there to watch somebody and connect with that person on some level because if not, you can just go watch pre-recorded videos on YouTube or something, you know?
Yeah.
Those are big facts, honestly. Like it's a wonderful way to describe it. And I mean, there are tons of tools on the internet available to help people kind of like not promise that you'll make it, but give you better tools to be able to figure out if you can, or just, I mean, even if it's slim chances, maybe you can broaden your chances a little bit. But it is a hard industry, and that's why, I mean, even OPC does the video podcast, or there are a lot of tutorials that people give, just like little words of wisdom, things like that. And I mean, even recently, you've expressed interest in compiling a list for like streaming essentials for different activities such as fitness, cooking, IRL, etc. But how important do you feel that how important do you feel proper equipment is compared to just being a good personality?
So equipment is good. It depends on what you're doing. So like if you are just playing Fortnite, I doubt you're gonna need like an $8,000 computer. I doubt you're gonna need like a $3,000 camera. Like you need the basics. You need a microphone that works for your situation. So if you are in a loud apartment. Maybe you need something that's not going to pick up the background noise, stuff like that. I would say definitely a webcam as a bare minimum. I know there are a lot of successful streamers out there who don't have webcams, but like I would say don't try to purposely be that exception that you think you're going to make it without a webcam. Um, and like I know lots of people that stream on their laptops and they're totally fine.
Hmm.
So to be honest, I would say that your personality is still gonna be a little bit more important than the equipment. Um, I don't know if so some people have been to my stream, when I first started, I had I still have these crazy alerts on my stream, like, so
Mhm.
and when I get a follow, I get like crazy fire on my overlays and things like that. And I used to get lots of questions like, "Can you show me how to do that?" And I'll go to their channel and I'll see that they have like 5 followers. Well, no, why do you need to know how do I do alerts? Like, that's not something you should focus on at this very moment
Hmm.
because if I saw your channel, I'm not going to say I'm going to follow you and stay followed just because your alerts are fantastic. And it would be the same thing for like your equipment, like, wow, great equipment, but you don't have a personality. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree where you said that a webcam is extremely important. I'm pretty sure there have been like a couple of actual studies that just said that people with a webcam succeed more when it comes to streaming just because it's so much easier to connect to somebody when you can see their face and like get the little quirks and the facial expressions. Cause like I remember back in like 2012 YouTube, it was like you just had a bunch of disconnected faces, and when some YouTuber revealed their face, everyone was just like, "Whoa!" And their following would just shoot up because it was like for once they could connect at an even more personal level. And so I think that really defines it. Where it's just like the more that you're able to connect on a personal level with your personality, and it's weird to say that your face is part of your personality, but it is because like everybody's got facial quirks and the way they smile or laugh. Um, and so I can agree wholeheartedly. It's like the personality is really what defines the streamer.
Yeah, totally.
I love seeing Glitch just personality when I make sure he
Yeah.
knows I'm disappointed in him.
Oh, what did I do now?
It's- and that is a joke. But basically, I do like wholeheartedly believe that it's much better to like start working and focusing on your personality before you start working on the equipment and everything. And that's why it's such a big thing to focus on how important personality is, whether you're a live streamer, YouTuber, etc. But I mean, like, I feel like Gothix might be able to describe it best, but what are some words of wisdom or advice you could give to streamers that are trying to, find that personality, either be themselves or that alter ego? Because I feel like you've been able to find it pretty well.
Yeah, definitely look at things that inspire you. And I'm not talking about just in streaming. Like I always bring up this guy, and I know people are gonna get sick of me mentioning him. I love Jim Carrey. Okay. I used to love watching all of his movies. Like he's a funny freaking guy. And I remember growing up and just having like saying some of the catchphrases he does and like having the same kind of demeanor. And so like I take a lot of inspiration from him when I'm interacting with people. And so I would say, like, look at things that really, like, get you going in real life, and then maybe look at other streamers of who you inspire to be and see how they do things. The one thing I would be careful with, though, is that you don't want to latch on to another content creator's personality, like, to a T, and I've seen this many times. I've seen it with my content personally too, where it's like, "Am I looking at myself right now?" Like, it's like looking right in a mirror. It's a little weird. Um, so you're not gonna find that thing about you overnight. It'll take time, and, I just also wanna say, like, don't let anybody convince you that that's you being fake, because I also got that feedback at one point where it looked like I was just, I'm just a fake person. Well, it's part of the business. You're acting, if because literally I wouldn't have been able to grow if I was just quiet, not talking to anybody. So you have to kind of put yourself out there.
I
And
think that is like a major topic that like or just really something that viewers who've never experienced like really going into streaming themselves or content creation in general is just like even the people that are pretty damn close to what they are on camera aren't those people on camera. Like we do have to ramp it up a little bit no matter what. No matter what, your personality will be turned to 11 when you're on camera. And so claims of just like fake or like non-authentic, it's just like, no, that's how we stay amusing. And then, we turn off the camera and it's just like,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that like these extra personalities are just an extension of what you already are, or you would not have been in any way, shape, or form been able to be that person if it wasn't already there. You're just expressing it a little bit differently, and sometimes like you can try new things, while you're streaming, and if it makes you uncomfortable as a creator, then it probably doesn't fit your personality, and you'll eventually stop doing it until like you are who you want to be. It's a really good way to kind of like chisel and nail your way to who you are, and like don't be afraid to step out of your own comfort zone, see what you like, whether you're a little bit more reserved or whether you're, I have friends that are like the biggest extroverts in the world. They want to be the social butterfly, the center of attention, everything, and they can be the same way on stream, but they had to learn how to step out of their comfort zone in middle school, elementary school. They just did it earlier in a different scenario. So to kind of like go off of that, like if somebody's calling you fake for who you're trying to be or who you want to be, like, I just don't think it's something that you need to really truly worry about, and just find your own way to be happy with the personality you develop.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, with you having been streaming for so long, and being full time and being successful for the amount of time that you have, what would you say one of your favorite accomplishments of being who you are has gotten you?
That's a tough one. What are my favorite accomplishments? Okay, I guess I would say the first thing that comes to my head is when I was reached out to by Snapchat, and Snapchat wanted me to go on the front page, and at that point I was still an affiliate. And I remember like getting fast food and just like crying, looking at my phone saying Snapchat DM'd me.
Because
So
you
it's,
use
like,
those
so
snap filters so
recognized.
well.
Yeah. So like I would say like that is just like the fact that like I was able to stream to 4,000 people as an affiliate and have like a gigantic brand notice me was like really like it was cool.
Yeah.
Now,
I can go ahead, Drew.
I just out of like sheer curiosity, for those that have listened for a while, know that I'm a curious boy. I'm a curious Drew.
He's very curious.
Did you ever find out if it was somebody from your audience that was able to reach out to Snapchat, or they were just looking for somebody that was signed into the snap filters and streaming?
It was literally Snapchat was looking through Twitter.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
that's where your personality being unified between all your platforms is very, very important. So if anybody hasn't started doing that yet, be the same person you are on all your platforms, and you'll be able to unite them 100%.
Yeah. So backtracking a little bit and talking about how, well, I guess it's still kind of related along the lines of a personality and how you loved costumes and stuff like that. When I was searching through, all your videos to try and make an intro, I noticed that you have these funny little bits that you come up with, like a call center or a hospital or something like that. And they're so funny and great. And I just want to know, like, where do you come up with these, and what are some of your favorites that you've done, maybe a recurring one?
So the majority of the scenes that I do are based on real life experiences. So as far as like the call center, that's pretty much what I was doing for years before I decided to stream. And
Mhm.
so like a lot of my interactions are things that I would have wished I could say to customers back then, but can finally say it now. And so, like obviously stuff like the fortune teller, like I'm not a fortune teller, but it just looks cool. I just like to play pretend with people.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of improv, so sometimes I'll like get my community involved and we'll do like a weird improv skit on the fly, and I just like doing things like randomly like that just to make people laugh. But yeah, I would say that's the call center is the one specifically that's like based on my life.
That brings me back
That's
to
awesome.
like working retail and just making sure that you're cool, you're calm, you're professional the entire time. You can't tell somebody to calm down.
Man, I
you
worked
know.
Chick-fil-A. The amount of time somebody yelled at me and I just had to go, "I'm sorry, sir. Thank you. My pleasure. And then just walked back into the back room, just like, motherfucker.
That's so surprising. Whenever I've gone to Chick-fil-A, everyone's so nice. Like, how can you be so mean to the employees there?
Yeah. It was, you'd be surprised.
Incredible. Now, although, I mean, with everything that's been happening and things like that, it can be like streamer Twitter is weird. And it's one of those times where everybody, they can celebrate each other, their accomplishments. And it can be extremely freeing and liberating to, be yourself online as a creator. But sometimes people disagree. Sometimes people don't love the things that we do or that we are. But how do you feel is the best way to combat the notion of, you just can't please everyone? It's a tough one because I feel like a lot of people listen to the podcast, you will realize that there are different people for everybody, and that's just something that a lot of people just tell you, get over it. It's just going to be a part of it. But sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I know it's a tough question, but maybe, what are some of the ways that you combat it?
Yeah, no, like, so to be perfectly honest, that is true. Like, you do have to get over it. And although, like, with me, I had a situation where I had, like, basically an online mob go after me during the summer. And it was like hundreds of people going at you at once, which is significantly different from one person saying, "Hey, you're ugly,"
Yeah.
So, you just have to understand, like, you got to where you are because of what you bring to the table, not because of what these other people have to say about you. And if anything, I think you should focus more on impressing the people that are already in your life, the people that have helped you get to where you are right now, the people that have, like, bathed you as a kid, like your parents, like,
Yeah.
not some random emo kid 92449 on Twitter or whatever. I don't know if that's an actual username.
We hope not.
It was Noah's. Yeah, he's in the middle. That it's fine.
Alone.
Don't worry about it. You're good. Go ahead. I 100% agree with that. Like, did anybody ever hear the song, build your house on the rock and not the sand? You can find your good foundation and just build on top of that instead of trying to add sand to the side for the people that will fall away if something's a little unsteady. It's a really weird analogy, but I think it really holds true on the just the way that communities can always be like a revolving door, but some people will stay. So I highly recommend just worry about the people that kind of stick around, like you said, please them, entertain them, take care of them like they take care of you. Don't worry about being uncomfortable and expressing your personality and who you are with the people that are just gonna revolve away anyways.
Yeah, and another bit of advice is that if you're in the long haul to do this, stay away from the comments. Stay away from the comments. Don't go looking for drama either. Don't be curious to see, I want to see what this person has to say about me. Don't do that, because that just is pointless, and you're just putting all that energy into something that's so negative. And I guarantee you that the more you consume that negative content, it's going to start affecting what you bring to the table as a streamer, like it did me. Like, for a while I was like, I don't want to be funny anymore, they don't like it, so I don't want to be funny. So just keep doing what you're doing, otherwise you're not going to be able to do it well.
Yeah.
100%.
Use it as a way to level up your content as a creator, just take the lessons that you learn and then just you learn enough to just start building on what you've already learned and mastered, basically. And there are going to be haters.
Happen.
Now, with 2019 coming to a close, what plans do you have for the next year? And I know you have some plans for TikTok. I know you have some content changes, things like that. What are some of the ones that you're most excited about?
So, as far as my content changes, I'm still doing this day by day. Like, every day I wake up, I'm just like, hey, this is a nice idea. Let me jot this down. So nothing is set in stone as far as my content goes. But the one thing I'm definitely gonna be doing differently is putting more of a business focus into what I'm doing. because like the first year I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh yeah, subs, la la la, pay my rent, blah blah. But like I really had no idea what I'm supposed to do. So now I kind of have a better understanding on like what's expected of me as like an influencer and what I need to do as a streamer in order to keep that going. So I'm making my own marketing plan, like an actual marketing plan. Whereas like last year, well, this year, I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll post to Twitter now and, wait a few days. And, like there was no structure to it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to start treating it more like a business now, which I feel like I should have done before. But again, I don't freaking know. Yeah.
Just things that
Yeah.
you have to go and figure out along the way. I mean,
Yes.
like something that you've also brought to the table, like you're wearing the shirt right now, the Goth Squad, and it's a group of people that are figuring out how to be able to get all their stuff together. Do you have like still a lot of plans to be able to incorporate like these marketing plans and things like that with the Goth Squad?
Yes. So like my big plan for the Goth Squad, this I will say, is that there are a lot of communities for streamers, and the majority of them are just like self-serving, link dumping, artificial relationships that you create with other streamers. And I'm trying to get around that and kind of re-educate the streaming community of like, this is how you actually make friends with people. Because I think a lot of people, when they start streaming, they have this idea of like, let's network. And then the network turns into follow for follow. And then it turns into, hey, you support me. So that means I'm going to support you, instead of actually building like real relationships with people. Because I'll tell you, like the last few months after I took a break from streaming, my view count plummeted. But it was actually really nice because I got to see the same people in my chat every day that were there when I had 100 viewers. They were still there when I had 20. So
Mm.
it's just like I'm able to I've been able to build this community where it's more like a family, instead of just like, well, I'm only going to be here if you're going to give me something in return, that type of thing. So I'm trying to basically re-educate and reshape how streaming education is going into 2020 with the Goth Squad.
It's awesome.
I
Thanks.
think it's really important. I think being able to have actual relationships, or even finding ways to inspire confidence in other streamers, is a really big one. Because as you can tell, it's not the follow for follow. It's not the fancy alerts or anything that you have that are really going to bring a community together. It's your personality that you develop as a content creator and that you work on. And it's your personality that lets you have these relationships with other streamers, content creators, and your audience. And it's been absolutely amazing to hear all of your input and everything from the one, the only Gothix. And some of you guys might know she used to go by Gothix model, but like Gothix, I love it. It's just simple.
It's that simple, it's short. It's like Madonna, but not a singer because I can't sing. So
I can't sing either. It's fine. I mean, on one of the other podcasts, I think Glitch and I were going to start a boy band, but I don't think I can be the forefront of that.
you know what? I
I
vote
mean, I
for
gotta
that.
do
Can I watch?
Do I gotta do this? Damn it.
Just sing for me.
No.
Whoa.
But other than that note, like truly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Are there any fun projects or anything like that that you're excited to announce that people might want to hear about coming up around the podcast?
No, you're just gonna have to wait and find out. Because I don't want anybody mooching off my ideas.
There you go.
Gosh, if that ain't a mood.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, check her out at Gothix TV on Twitter, or just Gothix on Twitch. I highly recommend finding that personality or taking a little bit of inspiration. I say a little bit because, I mean, once you develop your own personality as your own creator, the last thing you want to see is everybody doing exactly what you do. We don't need 500 Tim the Tatmans. We don't need 100 Dr. Lupos, and we don't need, any more than who we are. So I highly recommend developing and finding your own inspirations, as Gothix said. But truly, truly learn how to just be yourself online, and it's a good time.
Yeah, because then otherwise you're just making it saturated again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole point of you having your personality is to stand out.
Streaming's already super saturated. If you're not yourself, you're
Yeah.
nobody.
You know how many people I saw dressed up as Dr. Disrespect? Like, to a T. It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad because every time I go to a convention, all these people have these amazing costumes, whether it is Dr. Disrespect and a good Dr. Disrespect, or somebody even at the Star Wars reveal, like they're all dressing up as that, and I'm like, here's my T-shirt and jeans. I'm sorry, you guys. I feel bad. But yeah, honestly, just anything that you can do to be able to broaden like your chances of becoming a successful content creator. There are tips and tricks, but learn how to like be yourself while you do it, and don't take every like word of advice like it's got to be perfect. Utilize it so that you can use it for yourself and develop your own brand, your own personality, everything like that, and you will find easier ways to develop as a successful content creator.
And definitely don't take everything that people say on the internet personally. People are mean. People are real assholes. Like, just let it go, because that's just how people are. And it sucks, but you have to realize that like that's one voice in a wave of like 20 others just being like, you know what, I love you. Like, you know, you make my day better every time you go live. And there's that one dude that's just like, fuck you. And you're just kind of like, and you're just like, and that will stick with you, but don't let it. It's tough. It's real tough. But at the end of the day, if you just kind of have that personality, it was just like, it happened. Screw that guy. Like, it's better to get fired up when somebody is just like, I don't like you, because it's just like, then I'm gonna make you like me less.
Yes.
Well, you heard it all here, everybody, but truly, it's an honor. Thank you again, Gothix. Thank you so much, Glitch Streams, for joining us today, and hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and thank you.
Thank you for
Merry
having
Christmas,
me.
everybody. I just dated this podcast real bad.